Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 4. Yes, we're here doing that instead of 3. Okay. Along with feedback on the channel and watching this go, I think maybe the solution after we get done with this mess of the Battle of France, and I do like the suggestion of sort of the large infantry armies, give those over to the AI with sort of general broad front goals, and I micro the panzer armies and other mobile forces. And I presume I'm also thinking I want to keep a few, like we're seeing here, a few forces ready to put into where they're needed manually, kind of thing. Okay, and I've just went over to service by requirement here, pumped up to 5 million manpower. We're getting low on manpower. Okay, so let's continue this Battle of France here. A little bit more direction by myself. And here, all these guys, cut them off. Attack. Well, you're not attacking, so you attack there. I think the problem here to some degree is that any one of these commands may be just a little too small for the AI to think that it's going to win. Because like I say, I'm using this partially as a sort of test case as the AI is now, and how well it can handle things. Because all of a sudden, once I'm sort of vacating that, they will, instead of attack, comes in like a Spitfire or something in on my bombers. Okay, triumph in France. Our victory in France is nearly complete. The French government has asked for an armistice, and our diplomats have prepared terms which they have agreed to. They will retain control of southern France, and we are free to occupy the rest. Yes, we want to do that. Okay, the second armistice at Compiègne. The armistice between the German Reich and the French Third Republic has been signed in Compiègne, in the very same railway carriage in which the German surrender in World War I was negotiated. I think that was an armistice that was negotiated there. But whatever. Under the terms of the armistice, the French government under Marshal Pétain, based out of Vichy, will continue to administer most of southern France, while the rest of the country will fall under German occupation zone. Some of the French officers have vowed to continue the resistance from abroad, but this puts an effective end to fighting in France, at least for the time being. Okay. Now, let me talk a little bit about this. I think ultimately Pétain was a good man, but, and I know in, I don't know, 37, 38, at least one major speech he made in Marseille was warning of Nazi aggression, very much so. So, you know, well in enough time, this wasn't like, ooh, we're 5 minutes away from a war and now he's warning. He was sounding the alarm before, but France was a fractured country and just didn't respond well enough, coherently enough, early enough to the German threat. At the start, and I don't know exactly when, but at the start of the German invasion proper. He was the ambassador to nationalist Spain down in Madrid. Well, as the French army collapsed, he was called back to Paris, joining the government sort of at different roles at different times. Eventually, but he came very much in as a defeatist by that time. He saw France as defeated, not as a pro-German or pro-Nazi element, but just as we're defeated. We can't continue to fight. Not don't want to, but can't continue to fight. So his viewpoint was to make the best peace he could to, I believe, start rebuilding France. So he was, like I say, old, a bit out of touch, being the ambassador to Madrid for a while before this. So when he was brought back in, he was in no place to come in and rally the nation, rally the armed forces to resist Germany. So once, and I'm bad on the various French cabinet ministers' name, but once he was sort of in there and in the mix, even the ones that wanted to sort of maybe fight or reorganize to fight just got overwhelmed, and so this fractured government just continued to be fractured, and was a problem. He wasn't like Laval, who was his deputy premier or whatever. He was a collaborationist. He had been working to raise in the French government before the war with Germany, but he very much comes in my mind as an active collaborationist of the Third Reich. So, you know, I see very much Pétain as a man out of his depth and trying to do what he can, where Laval more and more just becomes a toady of Germany and trying to keep his own position well and truly good. So that's my evaluation there of the French surrender. Okay, we still have a bit of a battle to fight, it looks like. Okay, more trees are popping up. Somebody driving their muscle car around outside, but is it you're hearing? Okay, the Treaty of Caravona. With Hungary's gain in northern Transylvania, Bulgaria has reminded us of their long-standing boundary dispute with Romania's southern Dobroja, seized by Romania in 1913. Okay, yeah, we're going to do this. Let them get their territory back. I was talking about this in the last episode. The death of Rudolf Hess. Oh, we gotta stop the stamping. Go on, like this. Oh, well, there's a long photo there. That looks like the Hindenburg going up. Oh, well. Oh, well, this is a complete and total mess. Airship Hindenburg, which has been moored in Germany since... Oh, okay, this is interesting. Oh, this is something new to me. Oh, this is... Okay, this is something that they've done as a historical, because if you remember earlier in this series, the Hindenburg didn't get blown up in New York area. Great Lakes, no, Lake something airplane or airship field. Sorry, forget the exact one. Didn't. So this is something they've cooked up themselves for it. The airship Hindenburg, which has been moored in Germany since the beginning of hostilities, met with a dramatic end today when it exploded over Scotland. It appears to have been commanded by Deputy Fuhrer Rudolf Hess, who managed to fly it alone across the North Sea on a personal mission to negotiate peace with Britain. British radar stations had no trouble detecting the massive aircraft, and several Royal Air Force fighter wings were immediately directed towards its position. When the Hindenburg failed to respond to radio, they opened fire. The remains of Hess were found in the wreckage. Okay, well, as you know, I presume most all of you know, Rudolf Hess flew to Scotland in a Me-110. He was very much of a pilot, rather a good one, and it was a good enough one in that he was able to fly to Scotland,
navigate all the way up to Scotland near the Duke of Hamilton's residence. He was his country residence, at least. He wasn't there, I don't believe, at the time. But he knew where the Duke of Hamilton's residence was on the map and was able to fly in there. I believe at least he took off at night. I think it was. I presume it was still dark when he got there. Got up there and very near it, flew over the area, flipped his plane upside down and dropped out of the airplane and opened his parachute. That's how he got out of the fighter that he was flying. So it wasn't like flying along and he got out on the wing. No, he just rolled it over and pulled the safety harnesses or whatever, so he fell out, and once in the right position popped his chute and landed, and that's how he was captured historically. Rudolf Hess is a very interesting person, and a member of the Thule Society, or Thule Society. I've heard it pronounced both ways. I prefer the pronunciation Thule, but I don't know which is correct. In Bavaria, the Thule Society, as maybe a few of you know, is the group. It was a not sort of was. It very much was an esoteric, sort of occultist group, I guess, bringing in several various cult groups or cult philosophies that was very ultra nationalistic German stuff based on Guido von List's philosophies and other things. This Thule Society, after World War I, I think, because they were trying to gain power and spread influence, I think they realized after World War I the masses were the thing of the future and not the elites. Where the Thule Society was trying to influence the elites in society, they realized that after World War I it was going to be the masses that were going to be popular. So they decided to create the DAP, the Deutsches Arbeiterspartei, or the German Workers' Party. And so all the very early members of the DAP, a small handful, were all Thule Society members. And they started speaking in Bavaria, and a corporal was sent in to monitor this right-wing populist movement named Adolf Hitler. Hess was a member of the DAP. Hitler saw, hey, nationalism should be extolled in here, and socialism should be espoused within both the philosophy and the name of the DAP. So Hitler added NS, or National Socialist, to the NSDAP, and of course the rest is history. But that is sort of how Rudolf Hess started out. He was very much of an occultist. Now, why he flew to the Duke of Hamilton's estate in Scotland? Well, Duke of Hamilton was, I believe, a member of the Right Club. I think I've heard it called the Right Circle, but definitely the Right Club. And that was a sort of an elitist organization in Britain. Not that it did have a specific meeting location, but it wasn't necessarily like an owned building. It was just like we meet up on the second floor here every Thursday or whenever we feel like it or whatever, and they kept it. It was a small group, I think less than a few thousand people. And it didn't have any, anybody running for parliament. It didn't have anybody out making speeches or any sort of public persona to it, like some the BFU, the British Union of Fascists, or some of the other Nazi groups in Britain that did have that. This was an elitist, anti-Semitic, generally speaking, ultra-nationalistic. Whether the right group is specifically a National Socialist or some Nazi type group, or whether they're more fascist, I think it was more of a coalition of elite types in Britain that were coming together, that were concerned about the Labour Party and socialism and communism and threats both internally to Britain and from the Soviet Union and other places. There was definitely contact between this group and Nazi Germany. Now, this group mostly fell apart once Britain went to war with Germany because they were very pro-British. They were not a let's be a collaborationist group with the Nazis. Now, had the Nazis successfully invaded and conquered, I don't know what the individuals would have done. But they weren't, at their core, they weren't anti-Nazi. Excuse me. I'm not saying they were anti-French, though I think they may have held this sort of general dislike or hatred or whatever you want to say of a good Englishman towards the French. They had fought for a few hundred years. And they definitely feared various left-wing elements within the French government going on and that spreading, so that they may have very much been more pro-German than pro-French in a German-French conflict. But like I say, most of them were very much pro-England, as long as it was a, generally monarchy, so long as, the Conservative Party and reasonable government was going on. Sorry, I'm coughing a bit here. Was going on, so this group falls apart. I don't think the government knew just who all the members were. There has survived a membership log. I don't know when or how much the government had on that. So, but like I say, this is why Rudolf Hess went to Duke Hamilton's estate, because he knew that Hamilton was a member of this group, and him and others had been in contact with elements of the National Socialist movement and were leading figures in the British upper levels of society and government. And Rudolf Hess, and this only happened after the conquest of France and such, thought he could maybe, because he was losing power to the more military-minded people within the German hierarchy, thought that he could maybe get in there and pull off a negotiated peace. Well, the British were having none of that, and they put him in jail, put him on the newsreels and all that kind of stuff, and made a big to-do out of it. And, so this is interesting that he, in this version, he flew the Hindenburg. Now, of course, if you know the story in World War I, Germany bombed London and other places with Zeppelins. Zeppelins were able to fly higher, and there was a arms race, if you will, between the Zeppelins and the aircraft. The aircraft did get better and better altitude as the British were responding to the Zeppelin bombing threat, but to some degree, early on in particular, they were able to get up higher than the fighters could go up to get the the early World War I fighters to get up to engage them. So they were sort of somewhat invulnerable for a while, and so they've had a history of being bombed from the Zeppelins. So I could see theoretically the British deciding, well, what the hell's going on? We can't let them come in. Whoever this is, let's shoot them down. So that's the Hess thing. Let's stop this again. France has capitulated. Adolf Hitler has announced that the cowardly French nation could no longer withstand the pressure from the overwhelming presence of German forces throughout the country. The French government chose to flee the country and has gone into exile. Their main forces have capitulated. The German Reich now in control of their area. Though the war against what remains of the Allies continues elsewhere, it is a great German victory for all the Axis. Okay, well, got to keep stopping these things. I don't like that they start back up once you say yes to them. It's a pain in the ass. Okay, a little more interesting in trivia. We were talking a little while ago about Marshal Pétain and the government formed. Charles de Gaulle was sort of a minor general, but he had written his book Towards a Professional Army, I think is the proper English translation of his book. Sort of a Guderian type military philosophy of mechanized warfare and whatever. I've not even read an English translation of his book, so I don't know how it stands up compared to J.F.C. Fuller or B.H. Littleheart or Guderian or other people in his thought, but he was sort of the French version of this. Well, he had sort of, and I don't remember exactly, into the French government towards the later stages of
of the invasion, the Battle of France. But he moved up from commanding his armored division into some sort of administrative post. I think it was mainly still an army post. Again, I try to label this as commentary because I don't have all the historical facts in front of me. But as the closing days and as it become apparent that France was going to surrender, and basically at the time that they sort of announced that they were going to surrender, there had been back and forth flights, including Churchill, but also other British government people, to France. And I don't know if at least one airplane was put at some French ministers, and I don't know if it also included de Gaulle's availability to fly to Britain, British plane flying around. Well, I forget, it wasn't Churchill, but it was another one of the ministers or ambassadors or whatever to France was getting ready to fly home to Britain as this was all closing, and this was down in Bordeaux is where the sort of, before it moved to Vichy at the surrender, but sort of Bordeaux, I believe, is where the they moved the government to after the fall of Paris. So they were flying, back and forth to here. It was determined that this British minister, I forget, sorry, it was sort of one of the last flights out, was going to go, well, and this was planned by this British minister and everybody else, but it was kept very much of a secret, was Charles de Gaulle saw him, drove him to the airport, walked him to his plane, thanked him for his help, shook his hand, saluted or whatever, and he was getting ready to go. And just as the airplane was starting to move away, Charles de Gaulle leaps onto the airplane, basically, or just before it, hops in and closes the door, so no one could stop him, because they didn't want this French government to know that Charles de Gaulle was leaving, and that was getting out of there, that they felt that they would potentially, or likely, I don't know, try to stop him from doing that. So that is how de Gaulle gets out of France at the end of the French government, and to form the sort of Free French. So that's sort of an interesting little sidelight. Okay, now we have a bunch of stuff we need to deal with here. Research is finished, and we are in 1941, so these are some good things to research. And unlike this, which is an either or, you can do all three of these. But trying to think which ones. That is very attractive to do. That's also very attractive to do. But what I think we're going to do here is increase our industry levels. Now we are going to produce. We're producing a light cruiser and some destroyers still. Let's produce some more submarines. Don't know which one of these is better. Produce a heavy cruiser. But I only want one in production right now. And that leaves one more. We'll go back to a submarine. And now we can produce a lot more. Of course, we are running at massive deficits of needed supplies. Well, one thing I want to do here is... Where's my light tank destroyers? Light tank destroyers. Let's increase that by some. And I want to increase my motorization. Now to deal with all of this, we are hopefully going to be getting also a lot more civil factories, so we need at least 1 and 1. So let's go with Sweden. Increase that. And Hungary. Oh, no. These buttons are too small. Yeah, just one more 48. That's what I want. And the Soviet Union here. I don't think Britain will trade with me. I'm keeping Japan out of the... Okay. Cancel all orders, move all your troops up to here. Maybe we didn't want to move all the troops, but whatever. Cancel all your orders, so I'm right-clicking there and clicking on here. Okay, they're still up there. They're down here, so cancel all your orders. And right up to there. Where's Monstein's troops? Down here, so let's again cancel. Move up mechanized forces there. Okay. Cancel everything. Okay, we don't have any orders, I guess. What we're going to do is draw a defensive line. Not right there. All your orders. And we're going to draw a defensive line to keep Britain from, you know, invading. Yes, cancel all orders. I don't know if I got... Oh, we've lost Rudolf Hess. He's died in that accident. He's grayed out now. Okay, well, we've got lots and lots of political, and we need to also... Oh, you have a maximum of any of these experiences, so we need to at least use up some of the army ones. So that would be good. I don't think we need more political experience. No, that isn't useful. I don't plan on converting to military factories at the moment. I think we're going to do Himmler. We're going to put Himmler in charge to reduce our partisans. What do they want? Expeditionary. Yeah, see, this is part of the screwed up thing. What is France, Vichy France at this point wanting to send expeditionary forces? Missing equipment production. What is not in production? Oh, light tank. Now, currently we have 1,000 plus extra light tanks. Now, let's do something that Germany did do here, partially. And as a few posters have questioned about playing some very historical games partially as an educational tool. Hearts of Iron 4 isn't there yet. Okay, so it is working on getting there, but it isn't there yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to, I think we're just going to remove this. And not yet ready because it's going to shift a lot of forces. Ready to remove the other tank battalion. But what I want to do here, well, it's just here. It doesn't matter if they had placed all 4 of these tank units in one row. It's actually sort of cheaper to change things on the divisional planner. It doesn't affect combat effectiveness. What it is once you start a row of tanks, you can't do a tank and then a mechanized infantry or a other thing, whatever it might be. Some, you do have some options, meaning like tank destroyers, and there are some other options if you're going there. But so if you were just increasing here, these are your only 2 options. So we want to add one at least there to replace that, and I think we're also eventually going to try to replace that and go up to medium tanks as we burn up our light tanks. And we may even end up trying to do lend-lease light tanks to somebody else. Since we're looking at this, I think for the moment this is a pretty good division, but what I want to do here is duplicate it. Calling this the heavy infantry division. And what I want to do here is add a rocket artillery support to it, so that we are getting more than just your standard support artillery to the division. So we want to do that. Now this will only affect, see, if I did this to the original one, all the rocket artillery would try to be spread to all of the divisions. Well, I don't know how much we're going to produce on that. That reminds me, I don't think I'm producing any of that. So now we haven't produced any of those divisions either. Let's reduce this by 1 row. And produce a row of artillery, rocket artillery, to get those going. We're not even training up any of those forces yet, but I just want to get that template done to sort of use up some of this now. What I also want to do is to this, well, let's look here. No, so we have to come here. What I want to do is add a light tank destroyer to my Waffen SS divisions, and what I think I want to do is replace this support company into an anti-air support company. So this will take up the anti-tank role, and this moves over to there, and let's add a maintenance company to keep these motorized troops fully operational for the long campaign in the Soviet Union. No, I'm not trying to specifically come up with various SS divisions orders of battle. Those are more complicated and are very interesting, and we may do that, but this is just playing with the basic game here now. And I also want to deal with these similarly with the motorized divisions. We don't have any anti-tank currently, so that they're just very vulnerable against tanks, but we're going to hopefully keep building these cheaply. These Martyr 2s, cheaper than building tanks. You know, Panzer 3s or Panzer 4 tanks. So we're going to do that to change that. And let's see, since we do have a lot of experience to burn up, we'll also add in a motorized, and it doesn't cost us any more. Let's order a signals company, so that is much improved. Brigade here. I don't know if it needs anything at the moment. Now for air. We are currently researching this. Once we get this, I'm going to use a lot of the air experience to try to build up a much better version of the Focke-Wulf than the sort of standard. For the naval units, let's see what we can do for the submarines. See, and we also maybe want some max speed, visibility. That's good. Stealth. Two of that. That reduces well, if we get rid of that, you reduce your speed and you reduce your reliability. But with that, we just increase reliability. What if we increase reliability? That's just too much. Okay, I think we'll do that. Stealth improved and engine improved. Now, what we want to do is the plus sign, finish that one in production, finish that one in production. These, to the best of my understanding, again, it's not perfect. I don't know that there's any production improvement for building more in a row, so ships don't have that currently. They are, of course, affected by these, but needs. Okay, now I've been trying to get these to no transports. Oh, 0 divisions of transport. Okay, well, let's oh shoot, starting again. I didn't want it to do that. Okay, let's try this again. Maybe I messed that up by not having them in the port. Now, I'm gonna cancel that as well. I think we're going to go with Danzig to here, and then to here. But these guys aren't assigned there. Don't know why that isn't working. Okay, the Treaty of Caravina, Romania, that's just sort of the notification. Now, how does that affect our little war down here in Greece? Between Italy. Well, Italy's doing fairly well compared to historically. Yes, I was wrong. Mussolini attacked earlier than I thought, but it was still after the fall of France. And it was the Greek counteroffensive mixed with Yugoslavia that got Germany delayed. And yes, there's controversy over whether it did delay the Barbarossa. I truly do believe it delayed Barbarossa, though I know there's evidence otherwise, but that's my view of it. Okay. Well, let's clean up this mess here. Attack Brussels. Well, finally you guys got that, so attack here. Go in. There's some people I think are doing good work on trying to turn these little mini counters into larger size Hearts of Iron 3 type counters. One of the problems I've seen them report is that once they do so, because the 3D animation is no longer there, battle sounds and some other things sort of go away. I've thought maybe what they should do is just make these models super small, maybe even super small soldiers. How would that be? Almost, you know, like the size of, you'd see the size of the guy that would walk around this building or something. Or the other, my original thought was just so small that they don't visibly show up, but they're still theoretically there, you know, 0 size or whatever size thing that's covered up by the counters, and just have these counters on the map, so that you still get some of these marching arrows and some of this other stuff, but for the most part the giant soldiers and tanks go away. Oh, okay, well, we've taken a few more things. Okay, Japan wants to ask to join our faction. No, we're not doing that. No. Okay, research. Which we just got that, which we're stopping there for the moment. And we're going over to construction. Construction speeded up by 10%. That'll be very useful. And we can now produce more things. Weapons, more equipment. Back to that there. Increase that. And because we are looking at a big role of the Soviets at some point. That and some more modern artillery. And shipyards. I think that's because mostly because we just had a submarine built. So let's do the Type 9CA improved version. Okay, and still a free factory, available factory. There we go. Okay, what we want to do now is, maybe we wanted to do that before, and though this winter campaign may not be the best time, but let's try it. I'm going to focus for Denmark, but I don't think that's terribly interesting. I guess we just don't have spies enough going there or something.
Let's declare war. Conquer, focus, focus. Declare war. Okay, and we're going to activate him. Let's see how well the AI does this. Everybody joins up. Okay, last time I did it, they sort of went to here, and then I had to manually send them to there, even though I was sending 3 and 5. Belgium has capitulated. Great news, great news. What areas are burning up? Okay. Now, this is where most of mine. Okay, let's go to this. Again, I really don't care how, where are they? How well trained up my garrison divisions are. You could almost call them reserve divisions. So we're putting those on the map. Let's just send them down. To France. To occupied places. Ooh. Siam wants... Yes, you can have a non-aggression pact. We don't care about Siam. We're not going there anytime. Oh. Damn. Did it again. In my opinion, if this isn't a bug, I don't know what is. Vichy France forms here in Tunisia and gives all the rest of this to Germany. And we got this because of the Belgian Congo here. This still needs work, guys. I know people don't want me to necessarily just complain about things. But this still needs serious work. And that may be part of the reason why we will destroy right there. Let's see. Don't I have some submarines? Thought I was seeing some submarines over there. I don't know. Who's preparing to invade here? One division. That Italy or somebody? Oh, God. What? Okay. We'll take in Spain. Nationalist Spain. That's good. That was sort of one of my goals, to maybe get Spain into the... Okay, well they've done the AI because there was presumably a reasonably enough amount of divisions. With the, you don't want to, you can give a bunch of these guys and say garrison an area, and they will try to put troops at ports and victory hexes and airports. But that doesn't mean that the AI won't try to invade some other area. Well, here, this is probably because I drew that bad. Probably Le Havre doesn't have any. This is another submarine. This got built. Deficit there. So is that bombing damage? Partisan damage? No, just not growing. Some other things. Okay. Well, I think we're going to end this here. Sort of my goal, objective, I don't know, is to get through to the point of invading the Soviet Union with this series. I am not planning this series to be the great world conquering by the German Reich series. We're just looking at a lot of Italians have moved up here. A sort of a demonstration of Hearts of Iron 4 at this stage. So thanks for watching, thanks for liking the videos, thanks for posting comments, love hearing from you, see you next time.